About 35 years ago, I was introduced to this early technology called the Internet. It did not take me long to find people who I connected with, better than most of the people I met with where I actually lived at the time. Despite being at a university full of young, mostly white men who superficially appeared to have a lot in common with me, this sounds like a recipe for ultimate disaster, right? Here is a young, naive man jumping into the modern Wild West that is the Internet. Well, it could have been that way, and it almost was on occasion. However, I eventually found friends who supported me, accepted me for the quirky person I am. And some people may question quirky, but whatever. In other words, I found a peer support group. This group was not local to me, not all even shared the same country with me, and some didn't even speak the same language as me. We shared some interests, though, and some of the same troubles. We shared we shared enough in common that we could come together into an informal support group with who tried to help each other out, even though most of us never met. We were not always harmonious. There was often drama and sometimes even outright conflict, but enough of us stuck together to remain mostly stable as a nearly cohesive group. Since then, I have supported groups as much as they have supported me. I have attempted to help people through their fears, and people have tried to help me through my own. Over time, I gained an appreciation for support groups and the people who try and make them work, which is why I wanted to gather a panel of support group members and leaders for this year's symposium. Panelists, please introduce yourselves, starting from my right and going that way, I suppose.
Demelza says hi. Demelza continues with, I am a retired RN.
Sorry, what does RN stand for?
And both Rhiannon and Demelza clarify that RN is registered nurse, as does Gentle Heron. We have audience consensus.
That might be me. Hello, everyone. Gosh,
Hello.
hi. I'm very shy here today. There are lots of people, and I have lots of things to click, like a speakeasy and a note card. So I'm Viola, and thank you for inviting me here today. I hope to learn some new things today.
Hey guys, nice to be with everybody. I'll just copy some information in chat. I'm originally from the US, but living in Austria, and I initiated a project for Atlantis back in 2006 related to virtual world language learning. And yeah, that's why I'm here today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lady Tide Responded. To some of you, you know me as Pet Karu. I've been leading groups for God knows how long. um, I enjoy groups. I enjoy meeting people, learning from them, sharing knowledge, and most of them come out being my friends. Thank you for having me here today.
All right. Thank you. Is that everybody? I forgot. Um, we will learn more about these panelists as we go along. There are two basic types of support groups I would like to call organized and ad hoc. And I'll keep the same order as before, if that's all right.
Itico?
In your opinion, can one group style help people relieve anxiety and fear more than another?
Sorry about the open mic. It's because I was trying to talk and I intruded on Itico. Because Demelza is typing her responses to us, I'm asking that she not be placed first for her comfort unless she wants to go first, so that she has time to formulate a written reply, which takes ever so much longer than a spoken reply.
Well, I guess that would be me starting things concerning organized or ad hoc groups or support groups. My answer would be that people have different learning styles. So one style may work for one person, it may not work for another. This is why we have the two types, so that they can find the right fit for them. I'm done.
Yeah, Itico, it seems like having ad hoc spaces eventually leads to the need for some kind of organization. Although we've always had sort of like public spaces where people can come and use them in an ad hoc fashion, there tends to always be some kind of a need for, calendar support or various things like that, administrative stuff. But yeah, I think ad hoc also has value. People should be able to come together and meet without necessarily requiring an activity organizer, for example.
So I think it depends on the circumstances. It is important to have organised groups with some sort of structure and aim. And we can find non-organised support groups in various ways. Trusted friends, functional families, empathetic work colleagues, and caring neighbours, for example. The most important thing is to find the right fit for you, whether it be something structured and organised or something less formal.
Demelza responded with, I have been a member but never a leader of a group.
I'll start again. My answer to that question is I would say that I am driven by nature. I would like to see all individuals with an improved quality of life and the human experience. While we cannot forget about trauma, drama, or ill emotions that we may have from time to time, we can learn skills so we can manage them from controlling our lives. I'm done.
I guess it's me now. I hope my mic is better. I'll try to speak a little bit more loudly. It's really a long story, guys. It was back in 2006 when it all started, so it's really been an adventure. But language learning, language teaching, a passion for that definitely brought me personally to Second Life and has kept me here. I see it as an ideal medium for trying to bring together both language teachers and language learners. And yeah, the ability to help people in a variety of ways and find all kinds of win-win scenarios, I think is really, really nice. And the fact that it's such an amazing creative space as well.
I think what has driven me to help others where I can and encourage others to do the same stems from times in my own life where, when faced with fear and anxiety, no support was available to me. This can make a very lonely situation almost unbearable and can increase our fear level more, taking our anxiety levels to almost unbearable heights. And I suppose once we have been through something like that and we know how it feels, if we have some empathy for other people, we understand how difficult fear can be, and we will make an effort to give some support if we can, even if it is only some warm words of encouragement.
Thank you, Viola. This is Shay speaking for Demelza. The need to have everyone working toward the same goal. Nurses should present the same type of goals to the patients and to each other. This gives a feeling of unity for the group, since we all work different shifts and they only see each other for short periods of time at work. This reduces the fear that we work at cross purposes for the patients.
Thank you very much. All very good answers. What do you see as a risk of joining a peer support group? And again, we'll start with Lady Tigress.
Thank you, Itico. Well, one of the risks is basically having this big paralyzing force of fear hanging over you. And it can range from the anxiety of what others may think of you, or just putting your truth out there and wondering if people are going to judge it. But having the ability to actually take that first step is the hardest of all. I have found that peer groups, or even support groups, or even a friend to talk to, can help alleviate. But it's always that first step. Do I want them to know this about me? And usually it's met with encouragement instead of condemnation. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Kip?
Yeah, well, I guess when it comes to language learning and language learning communities, the obvious challenge is the inability to express oneself well in a foreign language. So it sort of makes all these other things that we all deal with, like absence of body language, apart from what we imitate with animations and things like that, facial expressions being non-existent. The fact that a lot of us, rely on text-based communication versus voice and whatnot. If you can imagine just adding an additional layer to that and having to do all that in a foreign language and interact with people from various places, it can be quite intimidating to a lot of people. That said, a lot of people don't react in that way and actually feel very comfortable interacting with people here. I'm not sure if I got the question totally, Itico. Feel free to rephrase it if I didn't answer it totally.
No, I'm just asking for people's opinions, and I think you did just great.
Okay.
And I was going to say, yep, facial expressions from a tiger, too, are kind of hard to
Right.
interpret.
Right.
All right, thank you. Viola?
So I agree with what Lady Tigress said. Of course, huge risk to actually come out and say what help you need. But the hope is that people will support each other. But if it's not a good fit, there should be no commitment to have to remain in that group. So people should maybe not see that as a risk. Perhaps there's a small risk of us becoming too involved with other people's needs as well, and therefore possibly increasing our own burden. But each person does really need to assess that and decide what is best for them. After all, we should put our own selves first when dealing with anxiety and fear to ensure that when helping others, we can give of our best.
Great words. Thank you, Viola.
Demelza speaks. Some people may attend to learn or feel too much in the spotlight to speak their questions. Afraid to feel judged. Fear of others thinking their questions are too dumb. Nursing has a history of devouring our young, as in the more experienced treating the newer staff as lesser instead of equals.
Unfortunately, the same thing happens in a lot of professions because of competition. Thank you very much. I will progress to the next question. What might be the biggest fear of someone who joins a peer support group? We kind of touched upon that earlier, but I wanted to expand.
Thank you. Yes, there are several, but I would say the biggest fear is knowing the need for help, whether that is self-realization or is imposed on you by a loved one or a friend or a colleague. They'll basically use the words, please go get help. But it's not until the individual recognizes their own personal need, they're not going to get the help. Even if they go with someone, for instance, to an AA meeting or anger management meeting, they're not going to buy into it if they don't see they have a problem, if they don't see an issue. But when they recognize it, it can be daunting. What do I wear? What if I'm the only ethnic person there? What if will cloud their mind. But like I said earlier, taking that first step of self-realization and saying, I think I need help. I'm done.
Absolutely. Thank you. Kip?
Yeah, again, to really try to bring it back to language learning, just because that's my own personal focus. I think when it comes to communication in general, one of our biggest fears is not feeling misunderstood. Feeling misunderstood, not feeling understood. So even when you look at native speaker communication, I'm sure we've all have experiences when we are chatting with someone and we hope, for example, that person didn't misinterpret a word, for example, or maybe found a comment too short or too long or whatever. So already at the native speaker level, we have this kind of a dimension of worry, so to speak, where you no means of communication, whether it be voice or text or anything really that I can think of, is a perfect means of communication. So we're constantly dealing with challenges when it comes to communicating and feeling understood. And of course, people who are not native to the language have a lot more challenges when it comes to that, and perhaps a lot of fears related to that because of shared weaknesses when it comes to language.
Absolutely, and thank you. And I have some experience similar to Kip's because I ran a literacy organization for almost 2 years. And the fear of being misunderstood is strong. All right. Thank you, Viola.
So yes, we've touched on this before. Probably the biggest fear is having to be open about the problem and about your own life and what you want help with. Anyone who is supporting someone else should respect this and let people know that they are ready to listen when the person needing help is ready and not before. So when that person has lost enough fear to be able to share. Someone could also have a fear of not fitting in with the rest of the group. A good group will make allowances for that and give a new person time and space to feel comfortable and to gain trust.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, I ran the organization. That was a couple years ago now. But anyway, no big deal. Demelza?
Demelza speaks. They get tangled in their fear and just are unable to speak about those fears to others. They might have found the exact help they need, but miss the chance to elicit it.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I think this is going pretty well. Let me see. Okay. As a member or leader of a support group, what is your biggest fear related to that group? Pick a group.
Oh, you're funny. Okay. I'm going to take you back in time when I was first handpicked to be a facilitator of a group at work. And I was told that over the process of 2 years that we would have groups coming in, and I was also to be the instructor. And oh boy, there were 700 men in basically a municipality that had maybe 100 women. So we were not necessarily wanted, and we definitely were not wanted to be in charge. So my biggest fear was it's a population of white males. I am not a white male. And are they going to listen to me? So I solved that problem, or I thought I solved the problem, by wearing a baseball hat that had a huge daisy on the front of it. And I introduced myself and I said, no matter what you take away from this, if you learn something, if you don't, you will always remember this hat. From that point on, I had their attention because it wasn't about the hat. It was about me. It was about basically introducing them to the hard concepts of change in our company, our organization. And they weren't ready for the change. They didn't want change. So my job was to introduce them to how the organization was going to change and how they could manage the stress of that change. Within those 2 years, I did get all 700 people, all 700 men, what do I want to say, trained. And I started from that point, after the first year, of actually training other people to be facilitators. There were other facilitators at the beginning, but for some reason my style was apparent, and they wanted that to be a model. And the model basically was listen to them, listen to what they're saying, but also listen to what they're not saying. Listen to how they're saying it. Validate it. Ask questions for clarity and to go deeper. You need to hear their side of the story completely. Instead of giving advice like you should statements, guide them so they can uncover a path that they can use, that they can own, so that they can come out of this victorious. I'm done.
All right, thank you. Kip?
Yeah, can you help me come back to the question? What was the biggest fear in terms of the...
Yeah, pick a group, and what is your personal biggest fear related to that group?
Yeah, I can actually use for Atlantis, I mean, my own project, because I actually experienced it. And I think a lot of people in Second Life experienced it, the sort of drop-off that we experience in terms of like having the, Second Life be a trend for a lot of people to come in and experience this kind of peak with a lot of users. We very much benefited from that. Lots of activities and whatnot. We are not a typical support group like people might stereotypically think of. So we do clearly offer a kind of support, but it's mainly in the form of language and culture support, I guess you could say. But my biggest fear for any community is seeing signs of lack of engagement, lack of participation, lack of communication. Disinterest in learning is a really scary thing, I think. So it's I realized from the very beginning that the community was very activity driven, and so we grew as our activities grew. Obviously, we had more to offer, and we allowed for anybody and everybody to be an activity organizer, and I guess certainly people sort of like created their own kind of model, so to speak, like how they did it. That's the way they did it. But it was interesting to witness and to see how people chose, to go to certain activities because they liked this particular person's approach or that person's method or whatever. So we tried to allow for a lot of diversity in that respect, and do not have any kind of top-down, dictating in terms of like this is how it needs to be done and how it should be done. We tried to give some tips, of course, and things like that. But yeah, so I'm getting a little bit off track. But just to come back to my own personal fear, it's that lack of engagement from other people, even in conversations, right? So we've got a large group of people right here. I often see in Second Life that the engagement is very different. So you have some people who really, do things like, type applause in chat, give that kind of text-based feedback to people as they speak, try to make them feel comfortable, things like that. I think when we start to see signs of people not being willing to kind of interact with each other, then communication, of course, starts to get difficult, and things like learning together starts to get a little bit difficult and whatnot. So, yeah.
Thank you, Kip. We'll have to move on to Viola.
Yeah.
If a support group, whether it be organised or casual, is functional and helps both the people in it and the new people joining it, my biggest fear would be that the situation would change and the people would lose the feeling of belonging and support that they had found. Various things can change situations and relationships, financial, political, personal, just generally something going wrong. If something is providing a positive input to people's lives, it is always a pity to see that change. However, as the saying goes, the only constant in life is change. Nothing remains the same forever. In the end, everything does eventually change. We need to enjoy the good times, enjoy those around us who help with our fear and our anxiety, and try to be aware that we have enough strength within us to navigate changes and hopefully pass on the things we have learned to others in a positive way.
Absolutely. And I could talk about how parts of some of the groups that I've been involved with have turned toxic, and we've had to cut off people, and it's not fun, but and then attrition, stuff like that. Anyway, does Demelza have an answer yet?
Demelza speaks. I always feared it would attenuate and just fade away, as groups tend to do. Our managers tried various means of keeping the group integrated, but it seemed the same people turned up for the team building experiences. I was in the same unit for 13 years, saw many come and go. There was a core group that seemed to show up for the meeting and activities, but more that just grew away from attending. We missed them.
Yes, absolutely. All right. And worry not, this is the last question. How do you deal with support group members' fears? Lady Tigress, you deal with a lot of them.
Yes, I certainly do. First of all, I let them know this is a safe space. Some of you don't know, I lead a discussion group. I won't call it support, even though a lot of people call it support. And in that discussion group, it's about relationships, empowering relationships. And people come there with the fear, the angst, the anxieties of relationships that have gone sour, or relationships with real life family members they want to improve. And I let them know, first and foremost, this space is safe. There is no judgment from anyone else in the group about what you have to say. We will listen and try to understand your perspective. We will encourage you. We will edify you. But please know that what you say here stays here. You have the confidence of this group not to betray you because you're trusting us with your heart. And I don't know why that works. I have no idea. But for some reason, it really does put other people who are really afraid at ease. And they'll open up and share their darkest secrets. They will share their traumas, their dramas. They will share their heartaches. And with that, we meet it with loving kindness and gratitude for their sharing. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you. Kip, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to bring it to an end here. Let's see. I guess when it comes to understanding fears, learning needs, and things like that, I guess I personally want to get better at it. It's not easy to do. With the reboot of Atlantis, which is scheduled to happen at the end of May, but probably will need a little bit more time. There's so much to do. One of the things that we're looking at doing is trying to offer personalized onboarding experiences where we basically try to spend more time with new residents, new community members who want to get involved, and we want to kind of have a system in place where we collect, very basic information, anonymous information, just information that would be a win-win for both parties in terms of trying to understand where that person's coming from. What do they want from the community? What do they want to be able to do? What are their specific learning needs in Second Life or in First Life? And other than that, to try to always address needs as they arise, right? To provide privacy and support whenever needed, and to really try to customize the learning experience as much as possible. I think we try not to think so much in terms of fears, or at least I don't. But maybe I would just use other words like concerns and worries and inhibitions and things like that. I'm trying to think. I'm not thinking about things that we've done in the past in previous activities. But very basic things like not forcing conversation was something that we tried to consciously do at activities to make people feel more welcome. So conversation, even though the activity was advertised as conversational, it was never forced. So people were always allowed to decide when they wanted to speak and make use of chat in the meantime, things like that. So
I think that's great, Kip. But I want to make sure that we have time for our others.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead, please.
Viola.
So I'll address this final question specifically to what we can relate to here in Second Life. We have a team of Second Life mentors, some of whom do a lot of helping, others do less as they can. One of the overriding feelings I get from the group members is the feeling of belonging. They enjoy belonging in a group of helpful, patient, supportive people. This is important for the volunteers. Perhaps the feeling of belonging with such a group of people turns the group into a peer support group itself for its own members. In turn, it is hoped and actually expected that the Second Life mentors also help and support others, specifically newcomers. Of course, some of the mentors have their own fears, and I'm sure they will include questions like, will I fit in? Will I know the right answer to questions? What if someone asks me about subjects in Second Life that I am not comfortable talking about? I just missed off the last sentence there. I always offer them support and help, and they can also get help and support from other group members as well. And so far, it's turned out really well. Thank you.
And thank you. And me, I have to ask other people when they ask me for what to wear. All right. Demelza, please wrap us up.
Demelza wraps us up with the following. We tried to deal one-on-one, the old nurses teaching the new nurses about the things they never learned in school. No one can improve in a vacuum. They need a place that is secure for them. Also, they need help learning how to relate to families who are having the worst day of their lives, including the ability to emphasize without losing their ability to do the necessary procedures to help the patient and family.
And thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate all of you and this slightly larger than normal panel. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Unfortunately, we don't really have time for many questions, but all of us here are on Second Life on a regular basis, so you can reach us and ask us any questions other times. Thank you very much, everybody.